The Demon Slayer manga has outsold every single comic book in the US in the year 2020. The entire industry. All of it. Combined. So, how did that happen? Why? And also, there's a little bit of news regarding a Demon Slayer video game. So, let's get into all that stuff. Welcome to the newest episode of SDW.
Super Dario World!
Alright, so and I'm back. And sorry about that. I was fidgeting with my chair. I accidentally went really, really low. I think I'm a little far. I don't know. Doesn't matter. So, before I get into it, let me just give you a reminder that any comments, questions, or suggestions, you can find me at Dario the Show on Instagram and at Super Dario World, streaming on YouTube and on Twitch at Super Dario World. I do live streams Tuesdays and Thursdays at 2ish. I aim for 2 p.m. Usually make it. Sometimes I don't. Tomorrow, I will be reviewing the TV show Loki. I haven't seen it yet. I'm going to do that pretty much as soon as I'm done doing this. So I will be reviewing it. It'll be spoiler free at first, and then I will go into spoilers. A lot of spoilers. I'm probably going to break down the whole episode because I do that, and it's fun, and it's easy content for me. So yeah, I enjoy it. And so, but that's tomorrow again. So on YouTube and on Twitch at Super Dario World live. If you want to join me, if you want to be a part of the chat, if you want to let me know what you thought about the show. And like, subscribe, it really helps out the channel. I really appreciate it. So, but let's get into this right now. We're going to talk about Demon Slayer. So, for those of you who don't know, Demon Slayer is it was originally a manga. For those of you who don't know what a manga is, it would be basically the Japanese equivalent of a comic, except it's in black and white, and you read it backwards as the story starts at the end, and you read it from right to left instead of the story starting at the beginning. Well, I guess it's the beginning of it. The point, you read it backwards the way you read a book. Okay, that's how that works. And so that's what a manga is, starting in Japan, and it later on became an anime, and now it's like a full sensation. It's a big deal. And before I get into all the other stuff, let me just read you a little piece of news here for those of you who are interested. Apparently, it's been announced that there's a highly anticipated video game, a Demon Slayer video game, which actually this franchise does lend itself for some interesting stuff in the video game world. It's the combat style lends itself for it to be a lot of fun because you got about a lot of different combat styles. But anyway, supposedly it's going to be released by Sega, and it will be coming out later this year. Now, it's been confirmed. It hasn't been confirmed in the US, but an English version has been confirmed. Now, why would they make an English version if they're not planning on releasing it on the US? I don't know. So right now, my money's on it will be coming out in the US at one point in the future. And supposedly it's going to, it doesn't really go into what type of game it's going to be, but I'm looking forward to it. It's like I said, it's a franchise that lends itself to it pretty easily. And the world, for those of you who don't know, the world is basically, let me see if I can, no, all right, it doesn't matter. So the world is basically, there's a core or a group of people called the Demon Slayer core, and demons exist in the world and they kill them. So demons in this world, imagine like basically vampires, pretty much, except they can only be created by one, but they're called demons, and they all have kind of like a special ability. And so it's like, imagine like a vampire with a specific superpower, and the Demon Slayer core are really extremely highly trained people who killed vampires. Basically, that's the easiest way to put that. Anyway, it lends itself really well for the animation, all that stuff. So I'm excited for it. I'll keep you posted when we have a release date, or they announce that there's going to be it's going to be released in the U.S. But even if it's not released in the U.S., like they said it's going to be in Taiwan and stuff. You can still buy it over there in Korea and stuff, and just have it imported over here. Just make sure it's the English version. So there you go. And so let's get into like the bigger issue here. So first off, did the headline is Demon Slayer manga outsells entire U.S. comic book industry? Did that actually happen? And so I wanted to dig into it a little bit. Was it just a wild claim, or is it something that's actually legit news? This is actually factual. And I'll just read you a sentence here, and I find it interesting because the source here is comicbook.com. So you know they're biased towards something, and they're going to try their best to make themselves not look bad, because this makes the industry look super bad. And the comic book industry has not been doing well for a while now. Their numbers have not been great. But let me just read you these couple first lines here. Well, there's no denying the popularity of Demon Slayer. The franchise has broken almost every record there is when it comes to sales, whether it be the manga, the anime, or the film. The hit series remains an unprecedented success, so you can see why the industry leaders have been comparing sales of manga to North America comics. But now the question is being asked whether Demon Slayer really outsold the entire comic book industry stateside last year. And the answer to that question, well, it's not clear at the moment if the sales in the US remained untouched, blah, blah. So, and it remains unclear usually is an answer. And if it's coming from comicbook.com, who is pretty obvious on one side, that means that they don't want to just flat out say, yeah, we got our asses kicked. Because they did. They got their asses kicked. And so they go into this whole long explanation as to why it happened. And some things make sense. Like the major distributor of comic books in the US is called Diamond. And because of COVID, they got shut down. And so there was issues with distribution. And that completely... that I understand that affecting, the supply, the demand, and all that stuff. It makes sense, and it should have affected their numbers. But that still doesn't account for why Demon Slayer sold so much, right? And so, first off, let me just see. So they try to use this particular metric here, and let me just give you like the numbers that actually matter. So, in the total units in 2019 of comic books being sold were 83.2 million. So that's a lot. So in 2019, all the comics that were sold were 83.2 million, which was a drop of 1.2 million year over year. So if the exact same scenario, continued onto 2020, which means a continued drop of 1.2, because again, this is an industry that's lost 1.2 million in total units being sold year after year. So it's assuming it lost 1.2 million, then the industry sold 82 million in 2020. However, the numbers are really hard to identify because, again, since Diamond had issues with distribution and it got shut down, and everybody kind of started doing their own thing, it's hard to track. However, it's if you ask me, if the numbers were in a downward trend, and then you have a distribution issue, and then everybody's kind of starting to do their own thing, and everything's kind of going haywire, you're assuming that they're going to sell even less, right? It doesn't sound like an environment where they would keep selling more. On the other hand, so remember, the speculation right now is that it sold 82 million comics in 2020 total. It's speculative. So let's say between 82 and 83.2, which is the max that they did in 2019. What are the numbers for the manga of Demon Slayer? The Demon Slayer's numbers were a total of 82.34 million copies. And these numbers are for sure because it only has one distributor and the distributor knows how much it sold. So 82.3 million copies that we know for sure versus a potential 82 million of the comic book industry in North America. So to me, it's first off, it's a testament to how popular Demon Slayer is. Second, if that's just Demon Slayer's numbers, then manga just completely and totally obliterated North American comics. If one was able to do that, this just completely blows it out of the water. But completely destroyed them. This is devastating numbers for that industry. Like, how the fuck does that happen? Now, let's try to investigate a little. Like, what is this? Honestly, what is the reason for this? Why are comic book sales down, and why is manga sales up? Because why are they? Like, honestly, let's try to understand it. Because is it that people are reading less? Maybe, but in that case, why? Again, the explanation you can find for one thing doesn't make sense for the other. Because theoretically, comic books visually have a better product in the sense that they're done in color. Manga's usually in black and white. So some of them are in color. Actually, I have a High School of the Dead omnibus that's in color. I love it. I love it so much. But mostly they're done in black and white. So I guess they're cheaper to produce for starters. But again, the cost of production doesn't really justify it at all. And they're usually made by one creator. It depends. It's not usually a collaboration. Well, I mean, there's a collaboration of an artist and the story guy, but it's not as big of an industry where you need 20 people to make a comic book or something like that. Well, you don't need 20 people. Well, I guess you do, because let's see, you got the writer, the colorist, the who's penciling it. There's somebody else. I don't know. The point is, I think you need more people to make a comic book than you need to do a manga. Just simply adding the colorist, just simply that alone. Anyway, but what makes one more popular than the other? Because again, it can't be that one's cheaper to make, because it would still not justify it, that it's that more of them are being sold, because again, they're kind of similar in price. Also, mangas tend to be a little bit longer, a little bit, and they look crappier compared to the comic books. These comic books, visually, they're very impressive, and it's all because of the color. So what is it? And the only explanation to me, it has to be the story. Well, it has to be either the story or the format of the story. Now, I myself, during the pandemic, I read more manga than I did read comic books. I have a bunch of them back there, but I tended to read more manga, and I'm trying to figure out why. What was the thing that drew me to it? And I think it has to do with story and the way it's presented, because it's usually a long story, and I think that's the key to it. Now, I know that comic books have really long stories. Really long stories. I mean, Spider-Man's been coming out since what was it, 40s? Maybe even before that. I don't know. The point is, comic books have been around for a while, and that might be to its detriment, because it's not the same story. If they would have continued the same story of the same Peter Parker and his same adventures and everything in that world, maybe. But they've rebooted it, and they've changed it, and they've added new universes, and it's all just one big mess, and it's all compiled together, and it's hard to keep up, and it's really hard to just enter it. It's a world that's really hard to enter. And lately, it's been getting really stupid. Like, I'll give you an example that I just saw. As soon as I was reading this article, I saw another article pop up, and I was like, "Fucking seriously? That's why their sales suck." On the other hand, manga, like I said, it's a long story, but they keep making new ones. Like, for example, they don't just stick to one character and they just keep doing the same thing over and over and over again. I mean, they're not reinventing the wheel with story. All right, let's talk about Demon Slayer. Demon Slayer's not reinventing the wheel. Stories about demon hunters exist. Stories about vampire hunters exist. Stories about vampires exist. The thing that makes this one different would be the characters, the way that it's presented. The themes are the same. It's fun, it's funny, it's different in particular ways, but it's not presenting us anything particularly new. I don't think so far it's shown us anything that would be, like a game changer per se, but it's presented like a combination of things that's different, and that's what's fun to see, and that's what's fun to enjoy. Maybe it got lucky that it was a down year, but to me, the thing is, it's a long story, and you keep going at it, and it's not just like, oh, one chapter, we're just dealing with this one thing and then it's done. No, it continues and then continues and then continues, and you can tell that it's going somewhere. The other advantage that manga has that I don't see comic books doing that much is they sometimes stick to ordinary stuff. They're not by that I mean there's comic books about just couples dating, people going to school. They usually try to add one or two weird things in there to make it, different, but it could be about just normal people, and that's fun too. That's an enjoyable experience. Comic books, they don't do it as much, at least not the big names, so maybe that's why. But it's like, let me see, I have a bunch of omnibuses back there because I like the omnibus. I'd rather have the collection. It's just easier to read. And so you see one adventure, one entire chapter is like yay big. Mangas are longer, man. Like, they're bigger. The story longer. And again, that's just one chapter, and it continues because they're not just, this character is not just here for that. It's a longer story, and it's usually planned out. Comic books, they kind of make it up on the fly. They change writers. Maybe that's it. Maybe it's the continuity of writing Because usually a manga, it's this is my baby, and I'm sticking to it, and I'm not letting anybody else take over. A billion people have written Superman. A billion people have given their takes on Spider-Man, and not all of them are good, and not all of them are excited about it. So maybe that's it. Uh, Maybe that's it. It's hard to follow. It's hard to enter, and it's hard to care at that point. But I mean, I was about to say that there's some stories that definitely have overstayed their welcome in manga as well. Some of them have ended way too short, but I think that's just it. It's one clear voice, you know, but that doesn't explain Demon Slayer because it's new. Demon Slayer is new, and it's not necessarily that long yet. I mean, you could tell that they're building a world, and it's going to be something bigger. But that still doesn't explain it. So maybe, honestly, maybe it's not something that Demon Slayer did. I mean, obviously, that's something that it did, because they invested money on it. And it's been fun. And it's an enjoyable experience. But maybe it's what the comic book industry is doing. Because, like I said, look, I found this article, and I'll read you the headline. New Marvel comic features Kevin Feige talking to the X-Men. Now, for those of you who don't know who Kevin Feige is basically the boss of the MCU. He's the guy who controls absolutely every single thing in the MCU. And I saw this little like tidbit of him talking to Cyclops, and I'll show it to you right here. So the dude isn't. I might get a little bit bigger for you so you can read it. So here's the slice. It's a Cyclops at a bar drinking with somebody. I honestly have no idea where they are. Oh, I think this is at the Hellfire Club. I think it's like Kevin Feige approaches Cyclops and says, "Hey, what's your story?" Cyclops answers, "Well, it's complicated." Why the fuck is Kevin Feige in there? Why the fuck is Kevin Feige in there? I don't get it. This probably has to do with them trying to make themselves bigger than the product, and that's a bad thing. The artist should never be bigger than the art. Oh, okay. I'm torn. I don't like it when creators insert themselves into their world. I hate it when Stephen King does it. It's probably the thing that annoys me the most about The Dark Tower. And in The Dark Tower, it kind of made sense in a way. It kind of made sense. I don't like it, but it kind of makes sense. I hate it when writers insert themselves into things. It's annoying. So here you got the boss of the MCU doing a cameo inside the world of the X-Men. Except it doesn't make sense for him to be doing a cameo in the world of the X-Men, because in the world of the X-Men, the MCU would not exist. All right? The Marvel Cinematic Universe would not be a thing because superheroes are real. All right? And who's going to go and want to see a movie about a superhero when you can just watch the news about superheroes? It's actually something that they approach in The Watchmen, where since superheroes are real, the comic books, there are stories about pirates and stuff. Because the logic is, well, why would people want to read about superheroes that are out there? People would want to read about pirates and like normal stuff. So that's one of those things. But yeah, it's like, what the fuck are you doing? Why would I want to read that? First off, Cyclops sucks. He's just beyond boring. And you're basically, I don't know what, sucking your boss's dick by putting him in there and be like, oh yeah, he's so cool. He hangs out with their characters. They're not real, okay? They're not real. And you're inserting them in there is just, I don't know. I don't know what they're trying to do. I don't know why they're doing this. Supposedly, they're going to reboot the entire X-Men and all that stuff in the comic book world. And again, why all these reboots? I tell you why they're doing all these reboots, because they suck. All right? You're sucking. What you're doing is shit. And the audience doesn't like it. That's the big issue here. The audience is, they're voting with their dollars. They're saying, what you're giving us is crap. Stop it. Either give us new stuff, or just leave those alone, or do something better. Whatever it is you're doing is not working, and there's a clear evidence to it in the fact that Demon Slayer and the manga industry is kicking your ass 6 ways to Sunday. And honestly, good. I can't remember the last good storyline that I actually followed. Well, I do remember what's the last good comic book storyline that I followed. I like the Avatar comics, so they have pretty good storylines there. And probably Injustice got the Injustice storyline from DC. That was pretty fun. That's it. Other than that, I don't remember something that I'm like, oh, I gotta follow it. Like the way that I felt like I needed to follow Civil War and all that stuff. It just doesn't happen. Manga, on the other hand, I've read a bunch of fun stuff. Over the pandemic, I read I read all the Goblin Slayer manga, which was fun. It was a very enjoyable experience. I loved it. It's so stupid. I love it. Stupid, but I love it. And so my kid brother actually makes fun of me for that. Read the Attack on Titan stuff. I haven't finished it yet because I haven't finished the anime, and I don't know why I like doing things backwards. I like watching a show or watching a movie and then reading the original material. And you know, now that I think about it, it might be sometimes what happens in Japan is that they create a light novel of something and then they turn that into a comic. And a light novel is exactly what it sounds like a short novel. It has images, and if that's popular, then they turn that into a manga. So maybe it's a thing of the process. Maybe it's because one thing was popular, then the other thing was popular, and then the other thing's popular. Or maybe it's just about endings. People need closure. Maybe you want a long story. You want to be there for a long haul. You want to be there for a story that clearly was planned. And then they're done and you're done with it and you're happy it happened, but you move on. Maybe that's what the comic book industry needs to do. Maybe it needs to move on. Maybe it's like, all right, we need to start closing storylines here and we need to start presenting new heroes. Also, maybe we need to put our feet in the ground a little bit more. Maybe we just do more graphic novels. Maybe, I don't know. It's separate worlds and stuff like that. Because the issue with Marvel and DC is that the world has gotten too crazy. It's just too much, hard to follow, too difficult. There's a bunch of people you don't even know, you don't even understand, you don't even understand what's happening. There's been so many reboots, it's really hard to follow. So a lot of people are like, you know what, fuck it, I don't care anymore. Yeah, and that's how you lose people. So if by trying to sell more, like, oh yes, you need to follow all these 10 storylines in order to understand it. You need to buy more. People are like, you know what, fuck it. I'd rather go read that manga over there, which is one long story created fully the vision of one person. And sometimes you don't agree. Like, for example, fucking Domestic Girlfriend. The manga's Domestic Girlfriend. I hated the ending. I hated it. Loathed it entirely. But I know it's 100% the vision of the person who wrote it. The ending sucks, by the way. And man, maybe for a Taco Tuesday, I'll do a review of it. When we do a review for that particular anime. But the story was enjoyable. It was stupid. It was enjoyable. But the ending was just brutal. Like, I'm still pissed. I actually rewrote the ending. I have this thing because I was reading it with somebody else. And I have this, if you've not noticed, I have a particularly nasty habit of rewriting things. So in my head, I want to change it, but I'm still mad about the original stuff. Like I did with Game of Thrones. When the ending came out, I was like, you know what? Fuck this. I'm going to rewrite the last episode in a way that makes sense. And so I did that if you want to check that out. I did that a couple of years ago. Wow, Game of Thrones was done a couple of years ago. Wow. Anyway. So I did the exact same thing for that particular story. And I'll probably break it down one day. Like I said, when I do the review for that, it'll be a massive spoiler. But yeah, fucking ending sucked. It's brutal. But again, one clear vision from one person, and you can tell it was their vision, and you're done with it. You're like, okay, fine. You don't have to be pissed about like, oh, look what they're doing with Spider-Man. Oh, look what they're doing with this. No, it's their product. It's their baby, and you could tell that this is what they wanted to do with them. It's like, all right, fine, do it. So maybe that's the advantage. Just keeping things simple in a way. I don't know. Maybe it's a combination. Maybe it's just the sad state of one industry that's slowly. Maybe it's a combination. You know, it's probably a combination of things. It was COVID. It was the sad state of the industry. How they need to get better writers, or they need to just create something new that's simpler yet interesting. Maybe stop trying to do this combined universe thing, and maybe do have a different comic book in each world. Maybe that's it. Honestly, just do independent stories, or create independent worlds. Try that. I don't know. Just seems like one big mess, and it doesn't seem like it's gonna be getting any better. To be honest, at least based off of this particular thing, like this that I'm showing you, right there with Kevin Feige talking to Cyclops. Are any of you looking forward to reading an X-Men comic ever again? At all? And I'm reading this article here, and check out like one of the notable features of the Hellfire Gala story, outside of the fact that it's set to relaunch the X-Men comics and introduce a new X-Men team to publication, is the fact that it features real life celebrities drawn into the crowd scenes. Who the fuck cares about real life celebrities? Who the fuck cares? Comic book worlds are not the real world. Nobody gives a fuck about real life celebrities. And let's see who shows up. George R. R. Martin. George R. R. Martin should not be appearing in comic books with the X-Men. He should be finishing his fucking books. Conan O'Brien. Who the fuck cares about Conan O'Brien? Who cares? Method Man. Who the fuck cares? Method Man, I guess, could be funny. You could pop culture stuff. I guess it's fun. It's fine to enter pop culture things there, every once in a while, because celebrities do exist in that world. But Jesus Christ, this is the highlight of it. This is like the things that they're excited about. This is what they're showing you. They're showing you like, hey, look, we're showing famous people from. Honestly, you know what? One of the good things about the pandemic showed me is that celebrities kind of suck, kind of overrated, kind of unnecessary. It's one of those things that like, you're not as smart as you think. You're not as important as you think. I can live without you. It shows you like what the important things in life are, and the important things in entertainment are, which is a good fucking story. That's the key here. So maybe just do better stories and stop trying to suck your own dicks. You know what I'm saying? Kind of like stop it. Like comic books kind of used to be like a. Not like a punk rock culture, but a kind of like an anti-culture thing in a way, because you're creating a different world. You're kind of an outsider, and now they're trying to make them like an insider thing. Like, oh yeah, we got celebrity. Oh, Conan O'Brien will be in it. It's like who gives a fuck? I don't care about Conan O'Brien. I care about fucking Spider-Man, or I care about Wolverine. Who the fuck cares that there's somebody else is in there? It doesn't make any sense. I don't care. You can put the coolest person in the world in there. I don't give a fuck. That's not what I'm there for. I'm not reading The Amazing Spider-Man for freaking Kevin Feige. I'm reading The Amazing Spider-Man for The Amazing Spider-Man. So, I don't know. It's the only thing I can say is, first off, kudos to Demon Slayer, because we broke down the show. I liked it. I didn't think it was the greatest show I've ever seen, but it was enjoyable. It was fun. And I'm looking forward to the video game of it, because it's an interesting world, and it gets better. The beauty about this show is that it got better. Haven't read the manga. I'll give it a shot probably eventually. And the weird thing is that you can read mangas for free. Pretty much. There's websites to do it. So I don't really. That also doesn't make any sense. But I don't know. We'll see how it goes. So the point is, comic book industry. Honestly, the bigger thing here is that the comic book industry is in a very, very sad state. Very sad state. The manga industry, apparently it's booming. They're doing something right. There's a reason why I want to do a Taco Tuesday. Stupid Eric, we haven't just been in sync, but over the weekend we watched the anime, so we'll probably be reviewing one next Tuesday if he's not too busy working, But we'll see. I don't know. I'm trying to understand it. What is it that makes it different? And to me, it's the one singular story, one vision, and it's a long one. It doesn't end with a cliff. It kind of ends in a cliffhanger, and not all of them, but it's like you need to be there a while in order to get that resolution for something, and maybe that's it. Maybe it's the desire of a resolution. Interesting. I don't know. I'll have to think about it a little bit more. But anyway, that's it. As always, any comments, questions, or suggestions, you can find me at Dario the Show on Instagram and at Super Dario World, streaming on YouTube and on Twitch Tuesdays and Thursdays at 2 p.m. ish. At Super Dario World. Like, subscribe, everything, all that. I really appreciate it. It really helps me out. As always, thank you for listening, and I'll see you again next time.